Hey everybody, how's it going? Ryan the Mighty Quinn here on the Cornerman _MMA with a good friend of mine, UFC analyst Dean Thomas. How are you, sir?
What's up, man? Listen, every time I do these shows, man, I always look at the other guy and their lighting is always so much better than mine because I never use my ring light. I got to start using my ring light so I can at least be on par with you guys.
Yeah, but that being said, I'm kind of like squinting into it right now because the ring light's directly behind my giveth and taketh. And
Yeah, I hear you.
I would take the video off and show you the ring light, but I'm scared that I would never be able to put the lens or the camera back in place perfectly because it's kind of like, like balancing in the perfect place. But
Bro, I
yeah,
hear you.
it helps. It helps. Beauty kills. But so, Dean, I had you on. I shot you a text during UFC Orlando. You sent out a tweet, and now, well, circle back a little bit, but not too much. Everyone knows the giant story going on with Brandon Moreno's gym right now. You reached out to Brandon saying to holler at you if he needs a coach. Now, I know you. I know you're very happy doing what you're doing, working with the UFC. Dean Diaries is great. It's only been getting better, and the Instagram account. Um, so why Brandon? I like you could do this with everybody, and like you've coached world champions before. So why him? Like I mean,
Yeah,
not like what's the attraction of Brandon? What's the interest?
it's a couple of things.
Hmm.
One, I think, Ryan, I'm bored in life sometimes. Like sometimes I get bored and I love having a project and I love somebody with vision. And Brandon has vision. You can just see it. Like he's such a visionary. So when I see him, I go, man, I would love to be able to work with a guy like that who's so hungry, who's so dedicated to his craft, who's so good and so intelligent. And you know where he came from. Like he wasn't always the greatest fighter. So you know that he had to really have something special about him and he had to really take care of himself in order to get what he has right now. So that's first and foremost.
Hmm.
Secondly, when I remember I was on a UFC show and they asked if there was anybody in the UFC that we would let date our sister. I said hands down, Brandon Moreno. He's just such a lovable guy. So I just need people like that in my life. You know what I'm saying? So like Brandon Moreno, just such a lovable guy. And then like really what makes all this realistic is that regardless of the accusations and what's going on with James Krause, he's
Hmm.
still my homeboy, right? He's still
Yep.
my
Yep.
man.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
He's still a G. He's still been in the game for a long time.
Hmm.
And I'm not a scumbag. I wouldn't try to poach his fighters. So
Hmm.
I put it out there that if he needs a interim coach,
Right.
you know what I'm
Right.
saying? An
Yes. Yep.
interim coach, somebody
Hmm.
to take over while all this is blowing over. I got
Hmm.
him. We could set up a camp in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Like I will set it up and work with a guy like Brandon Moreno. And I remember when Brandon first started working with James Krause. He started working with James Krause because of James Krause's analysis.
Hmm.
He heard James Krause do analysis and said, "Man, I need a guy, I need a thinker like that." And I've talked to James Krause on numerous occasions about fights. He's a thinker. I'm a thinker. I'm not the type of guy that relies on, oh, just get bigger, stronger, faster. I'm a thinker. And if Brandon Moreno was attracted to James Krause because of his mind, then I think me and him could have a good connection.
I never even thought of the connection with you and James, and that makes sense because I trained with James when he was down here. I didn't want to talk about James too much, but not because for anything bad. I didn't want to put what's going on. But I would be happy to talk good about James. And he's just such a student of the game. He loves learning new things. He loves asking what you just did to him, like when we were training. And so I could see that. And yeah, and he is well spoken when he's talking about the sport. So that totally makes sense. Um, now, it's funny you brought up you get bored sometimes. I have the same embarrassing challenge or project that whenever I get bored, I think I'm going to do it, and then I talk myself out. But I'm eventually going to do it because when I was in sixth grade, I did a science project to breed the Siamese fighting fish. The betas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The ones you get at Walmart for like $1.
yeah, they all died.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible. So now I'm always like, I'm gonna breed those things. And like I had this whole vision as a kid, I was gonna be this master Siamese fish breeder. was gonna be a masturbator breeder.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, no. But anyway, so I'm always like, man, I got to do that again because I didn't do it then. And then I'm like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. But yeah, that's you just remind me of that when you say you get bored, you think of challenges. Now, is there any other fighters in the UFC, or you know what? Is there any other fighters anywhere? I guess UFC because that's where you're set up shop at that you would be interested in coaching, interested in working with.
I'm really into, and right now I'm kind of working with Ryan Hall.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I've done some stuff with Ryan. In fact, I'm going back in January to his school, and we're just trying to put together clinics and just sessions of where we can brainstorm and come up with new stuff as thinkers, right? Instead of
Mm,
just, when you think about the game today, everybody goes, well, if he was just a little bit bigger, he'd be able to, and he's just a little bit bigger. And every time I look at that, every time I see somebody say that, I look back at what they're talking about and I see a mistake in the technique. I see a mistake in the execution. I see a mistake in the setup. So for me, I'm always thinking that I want to work with people who rely and are accountable for their actions and want to rely on the technique and say, you know what? It's not that I wasn't big enough. It was that I didn't do it good enough. So I want to work with guys like that. And there are certain guys that I think have that type of mentality.
hmm
Ryan Hall is one. So I started, collaborating with Ryan Hall. He works a lot with Corey Sandhagen. So I'd be more than willing to work with Corey Sandhagen.
hmm
And ironically enough, like Aljamain Sterling, and I know him and Corey have history, but
hmm
Aljamain Sterling is a man that I would always work with because he's such a student of the game. He's so, he watches every fight. He breaks fights down really well. And I would love to work with Aljamain. So if I had it to pick, it would be those guys.
You just made me think of something too. When I had Andy Foster on here, all the commission leads, judges, they have this big Zoom meeting, this a Zoom conference, so to speak, like quarterly. And I'm like you, like I think that's awesome that you're going there just to like talk shop, more or less. Matt chats kind of. Maybe we could set something up where we have a big Zoom meeting, just talking about, hey, look at this technique. Let's break this down. What do you think about that? I would love to do that. Just talk shop with different minds.
See,
That's
I'm all for that, man, because
mhm,
especially in terms of jujitsu, because I feel like there's such a hole in jujitsu right now for MMA.
mhm,
And it's because jujitsu is so far gone, like it's so far into its own stratosphere that it doesn't apply to MMA no more, but it still
right.
does work. And people just forgot about it and they just say, you know what, it doesn't work. But if you look at Roman Dolidze, like what Roman Dolidze is doing right now
Mhm,
is revolutionary, and people are going to start taking notice because it takes that one guy to do it. Almost kind of like what John Danaher did to jiu-jitsu and leg locks. It just took
yeah.
one guy. John Danaher created, Gordon Ryan, and then the whole world was like, boom, and then it changed jiu-jitsu forever. But what Roman Dolidze is doing right now in jiu-jitsu, in terms like what he did last night to Jack Hermanson, was just
Mm.
incredible. And what he did to even my guy Phil Halls was incredible.
It's funny. I know everyone's going nuts off of the figure four and how he had the hips pinned down, used the ground and pound. Me, that lasso sweep he hit in the first round, I was like, damn, like that was actually I thought that was more impressive.
I mean,
um,
the man hit a basic. I mean, he hit a sweep that like no one even attempts, because it's like
yeah.
as soon as you hit the ground, it's always push on the head and stand up. But this
hmm
guy is going to work, and like this is the type of things that I'm trying to develop in a very reliable, sequential, technical way, not just going, well, just punch a guy, but really
hmm
setting things up in a way. So I need brains and minds like that around me to help do it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize what jujitsu opens up elsewhere. It just it it makes people like it will open up your ground and pound. In reverse, people say, "Oh, ground and pound opens up your jujitsu." No, it's better if you put that in reverse. You know, if those of you who
Well,
want to go
people
to the
always
ground,
used to say, Ryan, they used to say, oh, well, when you get a black belt on the ground and you start punching, that it's you turn them into a purple belt and or a white belt. And I go, well, what if the black belt is punching? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So what does that make you, right?
mhm.
What does that do to you? But and I think it's just never really been, nobody really paid that much attention to it. So now it's time to really start paying attention to it.
I like it. I hope the revolution comes. So, okay, so let's say the thing with Brandon works out. Whatever. If you were going to be going over some things with Brandon, what would you want to work on with him?
Well, you know, one thing I noticed about him, and James had already done a fantastic job with this. Now we're just changing his stance up and making
Mhm.
his stance a lot more efficient, you know, because he used to have a stance where he was a little wide, a little open. And then in order for him to react, he had to kind of overexert. But now he changed up his hand positioning and his legs are in a better position now. So
Mhm.
I would build off of that. You know what I'm saying? I would build off of that. And you know, I think that Brandon Moreno is a great wrestler as well. Like I think his wrestling is underrated. So I would help him build off of that, and then just using his length. He's got a long jab, a good straight right hand that he uses nice and long. So like just building off of some of the things that he already does naturally. And I think, you know, I think he's going to be the champ for a while
Mhm.
because I don't think that there's going to be many guys that's going to be able to beat him, especially while he's still growing.
You know, it's funny you say that now that you said about his stance, and 100%, he's definitely more fluid of late than he was, and it's gotta be because he tuned up his stance. So that makes perfect sense. Uh, Dean, thank you so much. Before you go though, I gotta talk about the Dean Diaries with Glover and Alex. That was great, man. Like when you ate that pepper, I was oh man, and I was like, who the fuck needs a hot pepper? That pepper that hot in their backyard? That's like the people that keep a tiger in an apartment. There's nothing good to come of that.
I was wondering about like who grows these things. I was like, how bad could it be? Like if you're growing this, how bad could it be? And I
It's
tell you
freezing
what,
out.
and man, Ryan, it was the worst thing I've ever eaten. I mean, it was so bad. It was so hot. I was throwing up and I had body fluids coming out of every orifice. My nose, my eyeballs, it was coming out of everywhere.
And Glover said it like after the fact. I saw he said, "Oh, you're supposed to take a nibble." He bit like half of it. It's like, why didn't you tell him?
Well, you know, the thing is, but you know what? Uh, I was trying to get my respect back because, and you know this too now, Ryan. Like after you
Mhm.
out of the game for a while, fighters don't respect you no more. So you got to get your respect back. And I don't be in the gym with them like that. So like I had to get my respect. So
I,
I had to
I
go over there and show them I was one of them.
I'm all about it. I'm all about getting that respect, but I'm just gonna eat the bell peppers. The stuff you get at Publix right there. I'll stick with that. And if I can't get my respect, then I'll find respect elsewhere.
So be it, right?
Yeah. All right, Dean. Thank you so much. I'm texting you. Oh yeah, we were gonna talk books. We'll do that next time. But all right, man. Have a great night.
All right, my man. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Peace.